Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of the Team Never Quit podcast. As always, thank you guys for listening and watching, and please hit that like and subscribe button if you'd like to see the show. So today, before we kick it off with our special guest, let's get to our weekly Patreon question. This week we have got, what was your very first job?
Actually, my first job was working for our guest, Marc Lawrence. That was my very first job. I think I was
16.
I don't even think I was 16 yet because I wasn't
learning
driving.
to drive.
Yeah, I was learning to drive. And I learned how to use a fax machine. I was faxing papers, making copies, filing, doing all of those kinds of admin duties. But that was my very first paycheck job.
Is it a job working for somebody else?
Yeah, like when you actually get a paycheck, not like a...
Like where you go out and hustle yourself?
Yeah,
and make
not
it?
like a mowing situation or...
Oh, darn,
That's what I do. Yeah, okay, so it's different. A
Yeah,
job, I guess a job is
I
different
mowed
than... Yeah, that's what...
I'm considering a job where they
When you work somebody else.
When you take taxes out of your check.
What?
Okay.
Mine would be doing the player personnel assistant for LSU Tigers.
Yeah.
I felt like that was a cool job.
That was a great one. Well, during the Coach O era, so
Yeah.
It was real good.
Oh yeah, it was fun.
God, man, you did have a good run. You've had a good run. Freaking great run, man. That's good. Keep it up. Mine was, I was a lifeguard.
In college, right?
Yeah. High school, too, at a country club. But I got a paycheck for that. And then I lifeguarded in college.
Nice.
I had 3 jobs, all in one summer. Lifeguard at the university pool.
That's the best job, right?
Oh, yeah. And then, except when you have to sit there when the swim team is practicing, you're lifeguarding the swim team. But the other thing I did was I was an orderly down at the hospital, in the med center.
What type of hospital?
In Gainesville, Florida, at the university hospital.
Oh, sorry.
So I was an orderly, and every time you had to go down to the morgue to release a body, I was the only white guy there. You know, the other guys, we were all good friends, but they would disappear. And Mark was the morgue guy. So.
Oh my
and then
gosh.
in the evenings, in the Department of Psychiatry, they had sleep research studies going on, and I was a subject. So I would spend the night there with the wires all in your hair and everything. And dude, that's my really first one getting paid.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You get paid to sleep
Yeah.
in college.
Yeah.
So I never did anything like those studies that go on that they do at the universities. We go in and do an overnight or get $100 for donating this, or they'll run this test. I never did
that big of money, but I remember exactly what it was. It was this one particular study was sleep and hypnosis. You know, you go into stage 4 sleep, and what they would do is the guy would have headphones on. Mark, you're in stage 4. Try to get as much of this sleep as possible. But it had hypnotized me beforehand, and the code word to make me go into hypnosis, if I suddenly sack out, you know why, was blue rose. He would say blue rose, and I'd go, you know. But that was in the evening. That was fun. When I came back from Vietnam, that's where I was working. I was in charge of maintaining those grass recording instruments.
Oh my
11 or 12
gosh.
channel recording instruments. Full circle on that one.
What year were you doing it before Vietnam?
That was summer of 65. Summer of 65, I was working construction. That was maybe my first. No, I think the other one came in summer of 64.
Okay.
Something like that.
Nice. All right, that was a good question.
Mm-hmm.
And that
I know,
tied
works
us
out
together
perfectly.
because, yeah, I've known Mark since I was a kid. My dad and Mark worked together. And, yeah, I've known you and your wife forever.
Yeah.
Where were you born?
I was born in Columbus, Ohio. And we moved away when I was just beginning the 5th grade. So I grades 1 through 4 in Grove City, Ohio. And then we moved to Florida. And I grew up in the North Florida, a little town called Gainesville, where the University of Florida, Go Gators, is. And we lived on a lake. At first, it was Moon's Lake, and then we moved to Lake Santa Fe, which is much larger. We owned the property. We had, what do they call them now? A manufactured home. Mm-hmm. We call them trailers back then. And we lived in a 42-foot long trailer, and then we built a house. And so my playground as a kid was the swamps, literally the swamps of North Florida, and wading around with my dog and going out and tracking things. And what I didn't know I was doing was attuning my senses of observation. I became very good at tracking. So that came into play later on.
That's awesome.
But so couldn't go. We weren't wealthy people at all, and I knew if I was going to go to school, there's only one way. I could only afford to go to the University of Florida if I could get accepted. So that was the problem part. Shall I go on?
Yeah, keep going.
So finally, I got out of high school, and I didn't date much in high school. I didn't date at all in high school, and I didn't. We lived 25 miles away out on the lake. So, and my dad wouldn't let me hitchhike to get back and forth, so that's kind of settled that. We moved into the town of Gainesville when I started college, and so you have to declare a major, so I declared pre-med. And you have a bunch of courses you have to take. You don't have a choice in what you're taking, and I hated most of them. But I amassed a 1.96 GPA. Now, what's wrong with this picture? I knew I wasn't going anywhere, and I failed a course for the first time in my life. I failed German. I should have taken Spanish, but that's for some reason I took German. And matter of fact, the girl that failed me went to high school with me. So anyway, I decided I've got to get out of here. As a kid, I grew up reading Sergeant Rock comic books, and we were playing Army out in the woods. And then a buddy of mine, he and I played Frogmen. We had boats, and we were slipping in the canals and going underwater in the middle of the night. We were just doing that. So my life just kind of came apart right there for a while. So I said, I'm going to join the Army, and went into basic training. First thing you learn is never volunteer. Well, we're in there, and anybody here got ROTC experience? Yeah. All right, you guys come over here. Collate the papers. Okay, we're done. No, you're not. You see that waxing machine over there? You're going to wax and clean these floors. So we did that. They said, oh, don't worry, you can sleep in.
Oh, my gosh.
That didn't work. That was my first day in the Army. So went to basic training. And in basic training, I learned the joys of KP and guard duty. They don't have KP anymore. And I said, this sucks. This is not good at all. So I've got to look at going to OCS, becoming an officer. So I did, but I was concerned about my vision and them blocking me out. So I'd sneak in and I'd memorize eye charts. So I did memorize the eye charts. I knew what lines they were going for, so had that. And I calculated that if I go to OCS, I could probably actually get out of the Army 6 weeks sooner than what I'd signed up for. And so I did that, signed my waiver, and the guy said, Lawrence, oh yeah, your orders just came through. I said, what was this? Well, you were going to Fort Gordon for signal school, right? You were going to go to jump school, yeah, something fun. And then you were going to be sent to Fort Myers, Virginia, to be further assigned Special Security Detachment at the White House. I said, what? What? It's too late. I'd already signed it, and I was ready to go anyway. So off you're not going to signal school. You don't know where you're going. And where they sent me was advanced infantry training. Now I had three choices of what I should get in the OCS. One was intelligence, two was signal, and three was armor. I got artillery after infantry school. So I became an artillery officer. My first assignment in the infantry, they take a brand new second lieutenant and they send him to Vietnam.
So Vietnam was going on during this time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Vietnam was going on. This is 1967.
Okay.
They said, when did I want to join? And I went in the day after the first Super Bowl.
Okay.
Or maybe it was the third Super Bowl. So my first assignment as a butter bar, brand new second lieutenant, I became the training officer in the exact same company I had taken basic training in 8 months previous.
Oh my gosh.
Hi, drill sergeant. Remember me? So it was bad. You had to be up before the sun came up, and you didn't get home till it was dark, and it was just a horrible job. So I discovered there was a major love at the Pentagon that took care of the artillery officers, and I said, I want to go now. Send me to jungle school, send me whatever, but get me the hell out of here. So he said, Lieutenant, don't worry, you're going. So orders finally came in. We had been a while, we thought, well, we forgot all our gunnery. So they sent us to a two-week refresher course, only to find we hadn't forgotten a darn thing, you know. So now we go to Vietnam, and you get off that plane, and everybody's going, oh my God, you know, it's the humidness. To me, this is like home. Florida was home. It was humid. And it was at Cameron Bay, and I wanted to go to the 1st Air Cav. Man, I've heard about this unit. They sent me to the 4th Division. I never heard of them. So we get a little course in how to read the maps there. We are in the mountains of right up against Cambodia, Laos, and it is all mountains. And if you look at your topo maps, you have contour lines on it. The contour interval on all the maps we used was 20 meters. So when you saw a line on that map, it was a cliff in front of you almost. Depends on how close they were. So you learned all that. So off we go into the jungle. They assigned me to Alpha Company 1st of the 8th Infantry. Never heard of them. Several medals of honor have come out of that company that I didn't know about. But they're great, great guys. So we were assigned up in Dak To. We're up in the mountains, and I met my, as a forward observer, I have a recon sergeant and a radio operator. And I am there with the infantry at my discretion. I can come and go whatever I want to do. The captain there can tell me what he would like to do, but I don't have to do it. It's just the way it works. So as the FO, Curly, my sergeant, I hope he's listening. I told him we were going to be on. He got me strack in a hurry. How to pack your rack, your ruck. Which C rations were better than the others. They were all horrible. But he got me underway. So he and I were very close. The first thing they wanted to know is, what do we call you? And I said, number one, you do not salute me out here, and you do not call me sir. So I want to be just like anybody else. So we maneuver out there in the jungle. This is November, December, January. January we got sprayed with Agent Orange. I remember that, January 11th.
Are you struggling to get a good night's sleep? I know the feeling all too well, and it might just be time for you to upgrade your mattress. Let me tell you about GhostBed. They've got you covered with everything sleep. GhostBed is a family-owned company with over 20 years of experience making awesome mattresses. They use premium materials to keep you cool and comfortable all night long. And my favorite is the GhostBed Luxe, which is what I have. It has amazing cooling technology. Absolute game changer. You can even bundle your mattress with their adjustable base or cooling sheets for even more comfort. Plus, with their 101 night sleep trial, you can try it out all risk-free. And the best part is the free shipping on top of that. And most items ship within 24 hours, so you can get it like that. If you're ready for the best sleep of your life, go visit ghostbed.com/TNQ. And don't forget to use the code TNQ at checkout to save 50% off site-wide. That's right, 50% off if you go to ghostbed.com/TNQ.
What was the Agent Orange? A lot of people talk about that
Yeah.
now, and like our generation doesn't really know what it is unless they served in the military.
It's a defoliant. I mean, you go into the jungle, you can't see from me to Marcus. It's pretty thick. But they decided they would do this, and of course, there was no harm to the people, which was a total lie.
False, yeah.
But that was the Agent
So
Orange.
was it actually something you could see?
When they flew over, typically they flew over us by accident. They didn't know we were there. And typically they don't do it on top of people. They're just planes, C-123s typically were sprayers, and they flew, sprayed out of helicopters too.
Oh, wow. So is it like in the States when you see planes going over crops and putting out
Yes.
pesticides or whatever?
Exactly right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Maybe I'll
right.
go crawling through it.
Yeah.
Say again?
And then we'd have to go crawling through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly right.
Okay.
Or they come in, and another time they would drop bomblets, and
burn
they
it.
come down bombs, and they got these little fins that pop out like this. But the fins get hot, caught in the foliage, not in the sticks and the twigs and the bushes. And you're going through there, and you knock one off, it goes off. So
Oh my gosh.
I had to be, these guys they couldn't see them, but I could. So I'd go and I'd know how to disarm them, and I'd do that every now and then.
What was
If
the
we were-
attitude in Vietnam? Why didn't anybody like being over there?
I was a little different. I was grade A crazy. One, you hear the stories, you don't know what the Army's really like until you're there. And it is Mickey Mouse. I'll give you an example. We've been out on patrol, we being the company, Alpha First Aid, and the colonel flying overhead, he lands. We've been in the same clothes for 2-3 weeks. And they brought in a bunch of sea rations and more ammo for us, and some water. So we're there, and you're just tearing up the sea rations. You're out and finding what you want, repacking your ruck, and all this other stuff. And the colonel comes and he says, "I want all this policed up." Beg your pardon? We're out here getting shot. And then comes my battery commander to me. "Come over here, Lieutenant. You're better than these grunts. You're a red leg. You will be shaved and you will be in clean uniform. Sir, excuse me, but I'm a target out there, and I don't want to look any different from the rest of these guys.
Yeah.
And you're asking me to stand out. I don't think so."
Yeah.
He didn't care. He didn't care for that at all.
So back in Vietnam, I know like with Afghanistan and Iraq, they go and they make these makeshift bases. That wasn't like that in Vietnam, right? You were just
No,
kind of
no.
sleeping out in the jungle.
Correct. You had the artillery battery. My battery, Alpha 6 of the 29th, was battery 105 millimeter howitzers, and there were 6 of them, and they would be on the mountaintop somewhere, and that mountaintop would be totally cleared off, and there would be one infantry company on perimeter for them, and the other infantry companies then are out maneuvering in the jungle and the valleys, and the artillery batteries there for support. Usually we'd have 2 of them. We didn't go anywhere without artillery support. That's why I see some of these stories today about what's going on over in Afghanistan and the other places. Where the hell's your artillery support, man? They'd have blown them away. We did. They had one where I saw it was on TV. I'm watching it. The guy says, "I can't get close enough for my laser." Laser? Call in the coordinates. Don't you have a map? But there must be totally different rules of engagement from.
Yeah. A lot of rules of engagement changed after Vietnam.
That was our rules of engagement had to be first round smoke. And I hated that. And as I called in an artillery mission, I know where I am at all times. The only thing I had to do was keep track of exactly where I was. and I was never out more than 100 meters off, because I had to know immediately when we get attacked, I got to put stuff in there. And the infantry commander, he was never on the same place I was, so we would have to sort that out every night. But that was important to know exactly. But
How many
we,
guys
we
did-
lived out there. I can show you some pictures here in a little while. We take 2 ponchos and snap them together and some sticks and pops them up, and 3 guys can sleep under that and keep the rain or dew off of you. One night we were very close to Cambodia. We were always close to Cambodia. And we got in at dark. I couldn't find it, so I'm looking around and I find this thing and I put it under my head. In the morning I found it was a dried elephant turd.
Oh my gosh.
So another time the North Vietnamese were using elephants to carry 122 millimeter rockets, and we could hear them down there. So I called in a fire mission, and there's a certain way you call in a mission, and I said, "Fuse, echo, papa." There's this break, and they said, "Say again, fuse." And I said, "Echo, papa." They said, "Okay, what's echo, papa?" And I said, "Elephant piercing." So we got that one done. But it was, you're sleeping out in the jungle the whole time. And what they would do is they would rotate the companies in for perimeter duty around the artillery battery.
How many guys were in your battery?
In my battery, 6 guns, 6 guys there, 36. In the company, probably 60, 70 people.
Oh, wow. That's a lot.
You got FDC, yeah. Well, no, it's not when the other guys have more.
Yeah.
So you've heard of Tet. Mm-hmm. Tet was in March of 1968, and I was still back in the States when that Tet hit. So this year comes along, we're in 1969, and they said, we're gonna get there first. So the Ho Chi Minh Trail whole network came in, and they've been getting lots of intelligence. So we're going to send the entire brigade in, it's at least 3, maybe 4 infantry battalions. And I've never seen more helicopters in my life that were there for this move into the Play Trap Valley, a place that nobody'd ever heard of. So we get in this one location, and I remember all this is from memory, which is not that great. And it's a nice open area, and we're walking along, and all of a sudden, bam, explosions. What the hell? That's not mortars. It's artillery. So I'm on the phone, cease fire, and I call it all the batteries around. We're not firing. Every battery I call, we're not firing. And that's when you say, oh, this is problemo. And North Vietnamese had artillery, and we found out what it was like. But they were only using 1 gun. That's the problem. We had 6 could fire all at once. But anyway, we knew what our mission to do was to do what we BDA, bomb damage assessment. And they were going to have an arc light come in. Arc light is B-52 strike. I don't know how many B-52s are in. And they go run down this area, and that's what's coming in tonight. So I said, well, they know where we are. We got to get on top of this hill over here. But you have to be 3 kilometers away from where the arc light's coming in. And that hill was inside the 3 kilometers. So we lied about where we were because we wanted to be in a defensive position. So we told them we were down here, but we were up here on this defensive hill. And that night when it came in, it's absolutely terrifying. The roar, I've never been in a real earthquake, but the ground is going up and down like this. Next morning, off we go. Next morning was March 12th, 1969. And we're moving along, and we're seeing bunkers on the sides of these craters that are now all messed up from the bombing. And we've got 2 platoons up front. I'm in the headquarters group, 2 platoons behind me. Total head count was, counting me and my 2 guys, 72 people, which is not a lot. And all hell broke loose. We were totally cut in two. The two platoons in front were separated from us. We couldn't get to them. They couldn't get to us. We have the first thing you learn in a firefight, you can't hear anything. Between the machine gun bullets and the explosions and everything, you cannot hear. You have to start doing hand signals with everybody. So in the first hour, I'm hit 3 times, and I don't have a mark on my body. They're in the trees, they're in bunkers, they're everywhere. And they, being the 66th NVA Tiger Regiment, something like that. I'm on the ground in prone position, laying like this. And my gun goes like this. I said, did I pull the trigger? No. And I go like this, and my sling, bullet went under my hand, through my sling, between my arm and my chest, and tore out the stock of my gun. Okay. Stray bullet. Don't think anything of it. Don't think anything of it. A little bit later, I'm kneeling there. You don't want to get up too high. I'm kneeling and hold my gun. Like my gun goes like this, and it blew my handguard, hole in my handguard. I'll go back to that prone position when 30-some years later, I'm at home in bed with my wife, and I wake up screaming. In my dream, I was the enemy soldier, and I'm looking through the sights, and I see me out there. And when he pulled the trigger, that's when I woke up screaming. And that was the first time I realized it wasn't a stray round. Somebody had me in their sights. It was just a bad shot. Mm-hmm. Or somebody's guarding me.
Yeah.
And somebody's guarding me with it. So now we're getting signals that the 2 platoons that are they're trying to pull the wounded back up. And I think we had some dead ones too. So they're trying to join up with us. So I'm in front of everybody, so I'm crawling up. I can't call artillery in on this, but then because the artillery coming right over the top of us and then going down the hill, so it was impossible. And I had my recon sergeant taking care of the other part, so I'm crawling up, and I was out in the open by myself. I got this little patch that was open, and here comes one of the guys, and he's backing up to me, and he's got a big guy and rucksack, and I mean, over here. He can't hear me because they're there. So I have a real shrill whistle, let that out, and things started going into slow motion for me. As he turns like this, I'm back behind you. He turns like this, and about here I noticed, we don't have a gun that looks like that. And then he looked at me and I said, oh shit. The bullets were just stitching, the leaves were popping up off the jungle floor. And I laid down and put one across the top of my helmet.
Oh my gosh.
And then he took off.
It was a Vietnamese.
He was North Vietnamese. There's a tribe called Hmong, Hmong. They're big guys. We thought they were Chinese at first, but it was the Hmong. And I actually got him the next day, but I never forgot that face. But the point I was trying to get to is, as a kid, you're coming up and you're hearing about all this, and you see the movies on TV and what looks like when people get killed. But then you get the movies where the guys freeze and they don't know how to react. And so until that day, it was the elephant in front of me. And am I going to freeze? Am I going to freak out? What am I going to do when the shit hits the fan? Mm-hmm. And for me, I guess everything went into slow motion. Mm-hmm. It was like the Matrix. My body was so full of adrenaline, just adrenaline pumping through me. And then when these events happen, 3 events, I can't get killed. Mm. I figured at that point, I wasn't, first of all, in the firefight, I wasn't scared, but I was cautious. And then after I realized I can't get killed, I kind of threw caution to the wind. And it was interesting. So we were in this battle. We lost a lot of people. We had the guys were putting them up on the helicopter. We had to cut things. We had Spooky going around us with the miniguns. We didn't have any Air Force support. But one guy got on the chopper. Don White was here. I've had him up at the ranch. He's one of the older sergeants. He was 10 years older than me. This guy jumps on, got him on the helicopter with him, and he says, "Man, I'm going home. He got shot in the butt or something. Again, I'm going home." Bam! Took a round right in the chest, killed him.
Oh my god!
Killed him, and he was on the medevac. So, wasn't the medevac, it was just chopper trying to get him out. So we lost a lot of people. The company that I was with, I was told that we took 58% casualties over. It started for us on March 12th, and we were there at least 3 or 4 more weeks there before we moved over to the battery. So now we moved to the battery, and we're out of the jungle. Oh, I forgot to tell you about me getting wounded. I can't get wounded, right? God, so I'm walking back. We put 2 companies together so we had enough men to be defensive and to get offensive. Every time we went out of the perimeter, we got somebody killed.
Can you believe that the kids are already headed back to school, and with cold and flu season just around the corner, staying healthy is key. Thankfully, GoodRx can help you save on prescriptions that your family needs all year round. I know my mom uses GoodRx to get all my siblings' allergy meds, and she uses it because she saves an absolute fortune. It's super easy and totally free. Just search for your prescription on the GoodRx website or app, and just sell your discount at the pharmacy, and you can save up to 80%. GoodRx works at all of your favorite pharmacies like CVS, Walgreens, Kroger, Walmart, and so many more. And it works whether you have insurance or not. So even if you do have insurance, Medicare, Medicaid, whatever it is, GoodRx could still beat your copay price. That's why my mom uses it, because it still beats our insurance. So whenever you're filing those back to school prescriptions, don't forget to check out GoodRx before you head to the pharmacy. For simple, smart savings on your prescriptions, go to goodrx.com/TNQ. That's goodrx.com/TNQ.
So I'm walking down, and all of a sudden, flash, bang, a mortar round landed. I always heard the mortars. Never heard this one. And it threw me back. I couldn't see. I'm laying on the ground, and I'm hearing people, or seeing people going by, and I don't know what's going on. And I reach up and pull my hand away, and it's all blood. So I think my brains are hanging out. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what's going on because I'm not silly. Finally, the medic gets there, patches me up. I should have been blown in half. The one piece of shrapnel hit me here and tore my scalp back. I should have been killed.
But you're fine.
So here I am again. Okay, so he lucked out. He got me that time, but I stayed out there for another like 3 or 4 days, and because the other forward observer had gotten wounded worse than I was, not in that mortar, but from a different thing. Mm-hmm. And the medic finally told me, "Lieutenant, that's going to get infected and you need a tetanus shot. You better go back do it." So I jumped on the dust off, and they told me I couldn't carry my weapons. I wasn't going anywhere without my grenades and weapons, but they made me leave them behind, got on, went back. One night in the back, sewed me up, and went back to the battery because the infantry company was moving too. So as they were pulling off the hill, we fired all the ammo and everything on top of the hill. Chopper came in, the engineers were the last ones up. They took a B-40 right through the open doors, and the chopper took off and left them there. And a resupply bird going by heard on the radio, he says, "I'll come and get you." So he flew in and got him. And just as the choppers dived down the hill, just as they did, the NVA were coming up, and the whole top of the hill went up. Got him.
Gosh.
Anyway, so now we're back at the battery, and you think we're safe. We can see Cambodia out there. And they're shooting at us with artillery. But they're just around here and around there. So when the round goes in, the fuse gets embedded. I can go to that crater, take me a steel rod in there, take a back azimuth, and I know the direction that round came from. And if I get several rounds far enough apart, I can resect and tell them where they're shooting from. So I can't get killed, so I'm out doing this in the middle of artillery barrage, and we find out about where they're coming from and let go with a whole bunch of guns and other batteries, and the Air Force wouldn't come in again. Too much anti-aircraft fire for them. So that kind of wound things down for that. It was a wild period. But usually in the artillery, you stay out with the infantry for 2 months, then you come back into the battery as fire direction officer. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to stay out in the jungle. There's nobody who would mess with you out there. So I became the go-to guy whenever something happened, an FO got killed or something, they send me in. So one time I was on patrol, and they said, pack your ruck, we're coming in to get you. And I said, I am packed. So they landed and put me in the back of the chopper. And I usually have a helmet on so I can talk to them. Well, this one didn't. And we're flying, and I said, well, we're flying west towards Cambodia. If we go left, we're going to go to Camp Anari, and they're either going to try and offer me another Article 15 for something I've done. That's non-judicial punishment. Or I don't know what's going on. So I started getting worried. And then we didn't turn left to go to Camp Anari. We kept going west. And we got over this area, and I looked down, and the bodies were stacked up like cordwood.
Oh, gosh.
Really, NVA bodies, just stacked up everywhere. So it turns out one of my buddies from OCS had gotten badly wounded that night, and he had been evac out. So I got there. I said, I want to go out on the first patrol leaving, and so I can get the lay of the land. So I did, and I got with the guys, and I said, listen, guys, you went through hell last night, because they were totally overrun. And they took a lot of casualties as well as the NVA did. And I said, if you want to just go sit out here and call in sit reps, I understand. But if we do the patrol and something happens, I'll bring the whole damn world down on us, okay? And they said, okay, we'll go do it. So we did it. So just as I get back, I see some helicopters leaving. I said, what's going on? The captain made a quick CA, and the captain who was supposed to have gone home the week before was killed.
Oh, no.
And so that was it. So I spent a lot of time just jumping around, going from one firefight to the next, because you couldn't get killed.
How long were the deployments to Vietnam? Is it the same?
12 months.
12 months?
12 months. Yeah.
My gosh.
So now I've been out for
That was different for the guys who had been drafted as opposed to the guys who had been in, right?
nothing. No difference.
Oh, wow.
Guys are drafted.
If you did a year over,
2 year commitment if you're drafted.
If you got drafted, then you went over and served a year in combat, right? And then you got pulled out.
If you went straight there, first of all, you got to go through basic training and advanced training, and so that would take probably, if you went straight after advanced training, you would have been in the Army 4 months. So 4 months out of your 24 month. So, and usually there's some time in between. So if they are drafted and they got 12 months real quick, they go back to the States. Usually it's a cush job, Vietnam vet, nobody wants to screw with them. And
But it just wasn't out and back, right? Or backing out?
No.
They had like a year left to kind of...
No, they'd have like 6 months left.
Check.
Something like that. So sometimes they let them go.
So it wasn't like a full 4-year enlistment?
Say again?
It wasn't like a 4-year enlistment?
No, it was a 3-year enlistment.
Check.
When I enlisted, it was 3 years. Yeah.
But draft was 2 years.
Yeah. So now, after being under 9 months, I was getting a little short. So we got a new battery commander who's a West Point graduate, and we became good friends as Fred Shrimp. And Fred wanted me to be XO, the executive officer. So that meant the guns were mine. I wasn't in FDC and everything else. The guns were mine. I loved it. So I always depended on the infantry perimeter to guard us. So we're in this location, and we called it Little Bighorn because it seemed like we were surrounded by other higher mountains than we were. And we were firing our night firing program. At night, we would fire interdiction rounds out of places. And all of a sudden, I'm hearing I'm in my bunker because my chief of smoke and I alternated nights. And this was his night. All of a sudden, I'm hearing other explosions, and guys go running by. Lieutenant, they're in the wire. They've taken gun 6. These are my guns, and that really pissed me off. So I came out, grabbed my rifle, and ran straight into my chief of smoke. And here's our gun pit. It's on fire. You have the powders out when you're shooting with the 105s. And they got grenades in the powder. Powder's burning. Explosions going off. And so make sure that gun pit was evacuated. And then we realized that they had captured the Grunt's 50 caliber and had turned it around on us and were shooting a 50 caliber. So at that point in time, I ran into my chief of smoke, and we just kind of looked at each other and said, let's go. So we went and eliminated that threat. And I picked up, I don't know how I did this, I picked up this infantryman that had been wounded, threw him over my shoulders, ran him back up to place, dropped him down, and he died as I did that. So that, I kept wondering why I could do all this stuff. And what I came to the conclusion was that all the crazy things I did was to train me for this one night so I could save my men. Because these artillerymen, they're not used to fighting hand to hand like this. So that was a crazy night. And that
was 1969.
Yeah. One thing happened that's ingrained in my and I can't get it out, is that when we were outside Cambodia and we were at the battery and we were being fired at, here comes a chopper lands, and here comes the new guys. And I looked up at this young man. He was a very handsome young black man, and he's brand new jungle fatigues, and he's ready to go. And all of a sudden we start taking a barrage, and I'm out doing my things with the crater analyses, and all of a sudden I saw base piece took a hit. Base piece is in the middle. He got 5 guns and 1 in the middle. And I ran up there, and here's this kid. His legs are blown off, and he's looking at me, asking for help. And there's nothing I can do. I can't get that out of my head. I never knew his name. But that's what we went through. So even when you're back at the battery, you weren't really safe. So that was... So when I got home, I went Fort Lewis, Washington, out processing. And my last minute in the Army typifies my entire Army career. I have 3 rows of ribbons on. I'm in my dress greens. And I've got to go pick up my final pay. And I get in a taxi cab. I'm out of the Army. A finance corps major sees me. Doesn't say a word to me. Goes to his pay clerk. Gives his pay clerk a direct order not to pay me until I get a haircut.
Oh my gosh.
Mickey Mouse. That's why I like staying out in the jungle. Nobody would bother me.
Yeah.
You know, it's I captured some Russian pistols and stuff. Well, the intelligence guys call me up and say, hey, we think there's some intelligent value to those pistols. We want you to send them back. And you know what I said? Come and get it. I didn't know anything about this at that time. I didn't know about tech. But I said, come and get it. They never showed up.
Oh my gosh.
But that's why you...
So coming back from Vietnam, you know, we see movies like Forrest Gump and all of these others where, you know, veterans were treated so awful. Was it like that for you?
Yes. And I didn't tell anybody that I was a veteran, you know. So one day I get this box in the mail. I open it up and it's a Silver Star. And I just closed it up, put it in the closet. That was for the night at the battery. And, you just didn't tell everybody. Of course, they didn't know what a Silver Star was anyway. And so I started back to school.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what I wanted to major in.
How old are you now?
By now I'm 23, 24. And I took a geology course as an elective and said, oh my God, this is what I've been looking for all my life. I went straight in, had a professor that I liked, and I got my bachelor's degree in geology, and went into graduate school to get a master's in marine geology with this professor that I liked. Usually you go to different schools for bachelor's, master's, but I stayed at Florida for both of them. As a geologist, a geophysicist, you travel the world, and there's stories all over the place there. And knowing that I was going to be diving a lot, this program came along with the Navy, and to teach technical diving and let you try all the new equipment and stuff like that. And that's, of course, then I was black sheep of the class because I got the bends. Nobody else did. But the doctors, I was reviewing in my mind last night, trying to go to sleep. What some events happened where I could quit and give up? So I'm laying in after the doctors are there, and they said, "Son, we don't know if you're going to be able to walk again or not." Now I don't know if I can say certain words on thing here, but I remember my exact words were, "Fuck you, I'm walking out of your goddamn hospital." And I did. It took me 2 weeks to rewire from my brain to get this right leg. The first day I got a toe to wiggle. That was great, man. That was fantastic. So once I got that and it was okay, but then of course, 30 years later, here comes the necrosis. It comes back to you. But that was an exciting time. And then the next summer, I went to UCLA and met some people there. And in this class I was in. And after graduation, my first job was with Dames and Moore Environmental Engineers. And we were working off New Jersey, and it had a lot of diving work need to be done. Oh, it was zero visibility diving work, and we do that.
Getting a new car is always exciting, right? And with Navy Federal Credit Union, the process is as smooth as it gets. From start to finish, their car buying center has everything you need to research, finance, buy, and even protect your next car. You can search for new and used cars, check vehicle history reports, and enjoy great benefits on auto insurance. But wait, got a new car? How about a new home to park it in? Navy Federal has you covered on that too. They've even made it their mission to help military members and their families tackle home ownership. With their new no refi rate drop option, you can buy a home now and lower your rate later if rates drop without having to refinance. Plus, with options for zero down payment, you don't need to wait years to save. How awesome is that? At Navy Federal, our members are the mission. Find out more at NavyFederal.org. Navy Federal is federally insured by the NCUA.
And then that project was winding down. I mean, there's lots of stories going on there. But they said, we got this job over in the Persian Gulf. We need you to fly to Kuwait, meet these French divers, and go over there. And your job is we were doing a boring. We were in 150 feet of water and doing soil borings on diver-operated drill rig, which is what I was on when I got the blends. Anyway, went into that, met all these Frenchmen, and I was the only one who was on Harg Island, which is where all the major tankers come in. Tank farms are on the top of the island and on the high ground, and they just open up the valves and fill up these huge tankers. It's incredible. So I had some friends that had found out that I was going over there and asked me if I could take some pictures uniforms. I had free run of the whole island. And the Shah, this was in the days of the Shah Muhammad Reza Shah Pahlavi. And they had a battalion of hovercraft that they could land in Kuwait. Now, this is over in Iran. So they wanted to know if I could get some pictures. I don't know, we'll find out. So it's driving by, and I'm taking pictures of the hovercraft fleet and the guys out there in uniform. So my friends back, when I got back home later, they were quite pleased to see all that.
Wow.
I had a buddy of mine that I was an Iranian fellow I'd gone to graduate school with. We got together when we were there just by accident. And when they had their revolution over there, he lost everything he had. Mm. He got his wife out of there and got himself out months later. But that's a hell of a story for what happened to him over there. But being in Iran, I was in the desert and doing some coastal surveys, and that was fun.
Yeah.
And then going back into Tehran for a while and doing follow-up.
When did you get, because you specialize in all the seismic work. Really, it's 3D seismic that kind of came online in the early 90s, right?
That's exactly when it came online. And the method we were doing on the continental shelf in the shallower waters. So we didn't use streamers, because streamers, so we used, they looked like sonobuoys. Matter of fact, they came out of that genre. And they were called telsize, and the sones would be on the seafloor, and the buoy would be floating, and with telemetry, you'd send the information to the recorder. Mm-hmm. So that's what we did. And we started in that. And it worked out real well for all the companies. I got with you have to know who you're dealing with. And I met this guy named Brad Juno, and he and I just hit it off. And I had lost my first wife very suddenly. And Brad lost his wife very suddenly. So I went to him, talked to him, told him what to expect. I said, I'm here if you need to talk. So that's kind of, we got started that way. It was a terrible thing. But I realized that, we were licensing this data that we owned. We shot it, we owned it. The government gets a free copy, and they can't give it to anybody for a while. But we can license this to oil companies. Well, you say, well, if one oil company, why does another oil company want it? It's amazing what one company will see that another one totally overlooked. And so I did a deal with Brad, and because he was known and trustworthy, we would do deals literally on our napkins, mm-hmm. and we would both own up to it. And I had another company, I did a deal, very similar deal. And the deal was this: I'm going to give you my data for no money, and we're going to get a piece of your action. When you find something, we'll get it. A 2.5% or something like that. Mm-hmm. And it worked out great. We made more money on those two deals than we did on the other was nice cash flow, mm-hmm. but the real money came in when you owned part of a thing. The funny part is that when Brad did the first one on West Cameron 53, it was at the edge of our data. So they had this, what we call funny looking thing on the data that nobody could explain. So, and the property was owned by an oil company, Mobil, I think. And they said, Brad went for a farm out, and they said, no, we're not going to wait. He says, I'll give you $100,000 to do the paperwork. And they did. So Brad drilled a well. This was Zilka. And Will drilled the well. And boy, it came in, but they had to drill more. So they go back to the company, we got to drill another farmer. No, you're just lucky on this one. You're not going to hit anything. Did. Boom. So now he's got a nice production area. So by this time now, we have shot more seismic data all around it. So instead of that prospect being on the edge of the data, it's surrounded by data. It's in the middle. We get called on the carpet to Zilka, and Michael Zilka is chewing my butt out. I don't know what you did to the data, But if we'd had this data, we'd have never drilled that well. It's gone. It disappeared. And so we had our technical guys look at it, and we discovered something, and it's called you got near traces, middle traces, and far traces of where the receivers are. And when we had done this, they only had far traces. And so it went bright on the far traces, but not on the near traces. And when you mixed them all together, it went away. So we discovered that. And we had a meeting, and they looked at us and said, can you keep this secret? And I said, I don't think so. And this was what we called using the offsets. I can't remember the name where they were using it now, but it became a thing in seismic, and it was quite successful in finding more oil and gas out there.
You were part of that revolution of 3D seismic that now is used by oil and gas companies all over the world.
Well, that was part of 3D. 3D came about. I got to meet the guys from a company called GSI. Exxon got a lot of the credit for doing it, but it was actually GSI that came up with 3D. And the problem was, the reason it didn't come up earlier was it didn't have computers that could handle that much data. And so once the computers came along that could handle that data and do it fast and efficiently, then you had to get recording instruments that could put that number of units out on the seafloor or towed behind a boat. So all this came about after these older guys discovered and did that. And I remember being at some kind of function for them and recognizing them for what they had done. So that was good.
That's awesome.
So one night, we were talking about Vietnam and how we weren't treated very well. I was one of the sponsors for Wildcatters Ball. And the person that was going to be honored that night was Mrs. Bush. This was for her education program. So President and Mrs. Bush, this is the elder, were there. And because I was a sponsor, I got a photo op. Well, one of the things I started doing after Desert Storm was I started having my miniature medals and wear them on my tuxedo. So, not to show up because nobody knows what they are, but other veterans do, and they come out of the woodwork. So, President Bush looked at me and said, "Son, that's a Silver Star." I said, "Yes, sir." He says, "I know what it took to get one of those. I want to shake your hand again." So I did that. And of course, Karen's eyes are bigger than anything. Oh my God, he knew what it was, and he shook her hand. And so later on, we're going to the dinner and all this stuff's going on. So I excused myself to go to the restroom, and as I'm coming out, they make the announcement, President and Mrs. Bush are leaving, please make room and stuff. So I just stood over to the side, and President Bush, his foot was in a cast at that time, and he was probably a good 30, 40 feet away, and he saw me, and he came walking over again and says, "Son, I want to thank you one more time for that." And I got the chance to say, "Sir, is because of what you did in Desert Storm that brought the veterans out of the closets." And I said, "And I wear these in memory of my heroes, but they come to me to talk because they know what it means." And those of us from the Vietnam generation really appreciate the change in the country. So.
Yeah, it's crazy how the veterans of Marcus's era are treated so differently than and
I love it.
Well, and I do
Love
too, but your generation is like that's our parents' generation. Marcus's dad was in Vietnam. What do you think, how can our generation give back to the Vietnam veterans?
I think we're covered. I mean, it's a lot of guys don't want to talk, and like I said, was Joe. I said, "Joe, I've been there. I know what you're going through, but if you want to talk about it, okay. But you don't have to." Me, I can't shut my mouth sometimes. It just flows naturally for me. But other guys aren't that way, and I'm there to help them. These things happen in my life. My life is driven by outside forces that I can't control. I firmly believe that. And I don't sit back and just go with the flow. That's not what I do. But I got a call, and this guy says, my father received a Silver Star, and we don't know what he did. How they found my name, I don't know. I was still at Fairfield. Mm. So I said, what's your father's name? They said, Gerald, oh God, hang on a minute, Rommelfanger. You're kidding. I said, this is the easiest question I've ever had to answer. He was standing right beside me. That was my chief of smoke.
Oh my gosh.
And how that guy found me. And another time, a lady found me and talking about her husband, saying he needs to talk to somebody. And so how she found me, I don't know, but I talked to him. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what good it ever did, but that's what we're there to help one another.
Yeah. Have you ever gone to DC during, what's it called? The ride of the wall? The ride of the wall or something like that? I fell apart, but I can tell you a funny story about the wall. First of all, there's a beautiful picture of the guy. He's a businessman. He's got a briefcase down beside him and his coat laying over there, and he's got his hand on the wall. Yes.
In the reflection of the wall are his buddies. You've seen that?
I've seen that. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I had a picture of that hanging in my office. One of our guys from London, from Britain, loves collecting G.I. Joe figures. And G.I. Joe guys, whatever the company is, Hasbro or Mattel or somebody, had a competition to using G.I. Joe. He duplicated that scene, that wall, and it had a light that would come on and you could see the guys behind the wall, and the light would go off and you just see the guy on the front. So he made a 3D version of that. He won first prize.
Oh my gosh.
So then the company started selling those without his permission, and he sued and won. And what he got was free G.I. Joe stuff. That's all he wanted. He didn't want anybody. He got free G.I. Joe stuff.
Oh my gosh.
But that was and in his thing, what he did was all the names on the wall were from the Fairfield phone directory. So my name was on there like 2 or 3 times.
Oh my gosh. So what are some of the other Vietnam events that are really put together, like huge events? I'm trying to think, just to tell our listeners to go support those. Because it's so important. We're losing so many of our World War II veterans, and now we're losing so many of our Vietnam veterans.
Yeah, I've got something I want to read. Here you go. If I can read this poem by Pat Ewing. I don't think it's the Pat Ewing that was the basketball player, but now we stand behind old men's faces, speaking of forgotten times and places. So bent are those who would not break, who did fearsome things with lives at stake. Their shadows sharp and darker then, now fading away are these old men. But no one can steal their legends bold, nor thieves, nor liars, nor growing old. To never weave excuses that some men must, but to stand with men who earned our trust and speak of what we did before we became these old men. I love that.
I love that too.
Yeah.
So you've got a book that you're writing.
Yeah, I'm trying. I'm hoping I can get some tips from the master over here. My problem is I can't type. I took typing in high school, made a D. Dropped it, took chemistry, made an A. But my method is I write it by hand. I have 3 books filled with these things. I write it by hand. Then I get my phone and I read what I'm doing and dictate it, and then it goes into print, and then we can dump that out and put it into Word. Which I don't know.
They got all kinds of cool stuff now. You can do that.
Yeah, and there's Dragon software and all this other stuff, but it's on the phone now. I can just do that and then get somebody to type it, or not type it, but print it out for me.
Do you ever feel overwhelmed by all the different supplements out there? I used to as well, until I found AG1. Now, I've been drinking AG1 for a long time now, and it's honestly such a game changer. One, because it actually works, and two, because it just tastes good. AG1 is super serious about quality. They test for over 950 contaminants, way more than the others. Plus, it is just super convenient. Just one scoop replaces a ton of different supplements, making it easy to stay on track. What I love the most is the gut support from the prebiotics, probiotics, and digestive enzymes. It's really helped me feel so much better overall. Day to day, I just feel like a better person. We've partnered with AG1 because they make the biggest push in the highest quality product that I genuinely look forward to drinking every day. So if you want to simplify your routine and feel great, try AG1. You'll get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3 plus K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first subscription. Just go to the drinkag1.com/TNQ. That's drinkag1.com/TNQ. Go check it out.
Yeah.
So that's the part. But then what do I do with it? Because I deal in paper.
Yeah.
If I get on the screen, I'm not good at that. Just certain things aren't good. But
What's going to be the name of it?
what I need somebody to help me edit and say, just say this or don't say this, or it's better to say it this way, or leave that out, or yes, this is good. Mm-hmm. I need an editor.
We can help you with that. I know Ballast Books.
Oh, I'd appreciate that more than anything.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing your story with us. I love hearing Vietnam stories because people don't talk about it. And a lot of people forget a lot of it. You seem to remember everything.
When y'all got back, was it your peers that were mean to y'all, or was it the greatest generation, your parents, that were mean to y'all?
No. The greatest generation knew, and they were good. It was our peers.
Is it like what's going on now? I mean, because are the equivalent, were y'all's hippies the equivalent of what I'm having here outside right now?
Like at the universities protesting.
That's exactly what happened, because Jane Fonda was at her
it happens after every war, right? So when the soldiers come back, when they separate us, the warriors go one way, and then whoever stays back, that happens.
Seems like it.
Seems like it, right?
Sure does to me.
History keeps showing us that. So my generation's hippies have taken it to a different level.
Yeah. Well, are you talking about the protest on the campus right now?
Those are the snobby rich kids.
Yeah.
That's a little different. You know, they just don't have any discipline.
We had the exact same things where they take over buildings and do crazy things like that. And what they do is when they get arrested, you find out half of them aren't students.
Yeah.
You know,
that's the troubling part.
Yeah.
There's once you peel that layer back and find that in there, then everyone should step aside and not complain when we go and drop a hammer on them.
That's it.
Otherwise, it's just going to keep happening. Which Americans like drama.
Yep.
I mean, there's $1 billion industry on it. Most of it's free.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Most drama's free, and they still seem to make a lot of money off of it. I get that. But what they do to disrupt the peace, that's what most people aren't talking about. I was like, hey, man, you're allowed to do that. You're allowed to do this, and you're allowed to do that, man. But if you start disturbing our peace, and everyone knows what that means. So that's what I'm dealing with right now.
How did they, back in the early 70s when all of that was going on.
How'd y'all calm that down?
Yeah, how did that just dissipate?
Oh, the war ended.
But when the war ended, did all of the protesters and the loudmouths, did they just go away? And
some of them went into politics.
Yeah.
You probably know who I'm talking about.
That's so interesting. I never thought about that.
Some of them went into politics, and we still don't care for them. And you know, you get the Jane Fondas of the world. They got enough money, they just ignore everybody and go on and do what they want to do, you know?
Let me tell you something, man. All the people in history, when you say that woman's name, when it comes to y'all and what she did, I mean, just that act alone.
Yep.
We'll never
Every
forget.
time I hear that freaking name, that's the first thing that pops into my head. And I wasn't even there.
Okay. In my business travels, I've been back to Vietnam 5 times. on business. Never back where I was fighting. It was always in Saigon or Hanoi. And that's most interesting. So in Hanoi, I'm staying at the real Hilton Hotel, and very close to it was the Hanoi Hilton POW camp. And I have a brick from there. Well, I did. It may be stolen by now. I went in there, and I'm walking around inside this. It's a museum now. And the lies they had up there, just...
Are you talking about from the other
lies.
side? Well, that's a war thing. Every
Yeah,
country's
yeah.
going back there and play up. Yeah.
And we wanted to cool down. We'd go over to see Ho Chi Minh because he was in an air-conditioned...
Oh my gosh.
So watch him. But I did meet the U.S. colonel that was in charge of finding remains. And we sat down, had a couple drinks one night. And basically, the only remains you're going to be able to do is if they're associated with a downed aircraft. Because they can't find a grunt that was out there in the middle of nowhere.
Well, it'd probably still be alive. I mean, not alive, but remains.
Yeah,
if that sucker's not, if they're not in an aircraft surrounded by metal,
the
ground would have already taken them.
That's right.
It's like a perfect coffin for us to find them later.
Yep. Well, we had tigers around. We had a couple guys killed by tigers. Fell asleep on guard duty.
Really?
Yeah. And
Everyone calls the lion the king of the jungle, but there's no lions in the jungle. It's all tigers.
No, right. So one night we were hearing someone. So I went out with my flashlight. This is back when I was battery exec, and I saw paw prints this big around. So I said, everybody get in your bunkers. Want an armed man at the bunker, and we go up. We just quiet and we wait. So he disappeared. He got out of the probably leaped over the concertina, but.
I guess every war has something. You guys had tigers. We had spiders.
Yeah, yeah.
It's always something over there.
I never worried about that too much. We was one company I was with had a monkey went around with us, and this monkey I called in defensive concentrations, and so I got to call in the 8-inchers one time. This is a 200-pound Projo, and it sounds like a freight train when it's coming over your head. My God, and when there's an explosion, so I dropped one, and it was about 75 yards out, and the colonel jumped up. That's close enough, Lieutenant. And I said, drop 50. I mean, 50 meters closer, and they put it in there. So we got the trip flares are going off in the wire, holes in the wire. I said, now that's a good defensive concentration. But anyway, anytime you're firing this, you got to yell out, fire in the hole, so everybody gets down. Well, if nothing explodes, the monkey would get pissed off and go and bite you. So you didn't do fire in the hole without a real fire in the hole around the monkey.
Oh my gosh. Did you see that movie Beer Run that came out in the last 5 years or so? I think it's Zac Efron, maybe? It's about a Vietnam veteran. Actually, I'm sorry, he was not a veteran. All of his friends were in Vietnam, and for some reason he couldn't go. I don't remember if it was a medical issue or whatnot, but he couldn't. He tried to go, he couldn't. He decided what he was going to do for his friends, because they were all there.
Beer run.
Yes, he was going to bring them some beer. And he actually made it over there, and he made it to his friends and brought them beer. And they were so mad at him for getting into the war. They didn't want him to get hurt. And he was like, I just wanted to see you and have a beer with you. And it's a true story. Did you ever hear about that?
Yeah, not when I was there.
Yeah.
Later, when you talk about the movie, I said,
Yeah.
oh, yeah. I haven't seen it, but I heard about it.
It's actually a really good movie.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming
bro,
on
thanks
and
for
sharing
welcome,
your
man.
story. And
Anytime you'd like to have me back, I'm available.
all right, we're going to help
Okay.
you get this book
Yeah.
published and
I want to
get it out.
get it done.
Yeah.
This is the Team Never Quit podcast. So buckle up, Buttercup.